Today I thought I would do something a bit different. So this isn't a podcast and this isn't really a vlog. Since I've gotten some new subscribers, which is making me very happy, I realized that I actually don't have any content that would talk about my background and my knitting journey so far. All the podcast episodes that I have up seem to be about, or don't seem to be, they are about my current making. The very first couple of first episodes, I've taken them offline. I've deleted them because the sound quality just really wasn't great, and I don't see any point having those up there if most people cannot hear what I'm saying. But in those videos I went through where I learned to knit and what I've been making before starting the podcasts. So I thought that I could answer the knitters tag questions. Now I have them here. So if and when you see me glance at my notebook down here, then you know that's what I'm doing. I'm checking what the question was. And Knitter's tag was started by Amy of the Noble Character Crafts. Now, usually these tags, the way they work are that people tag other people and then those people answer and tag someone else. I haven't been tagged, but I still wanted to answer the questions because they were good questions, and I find it interesting to hear other people's comments on them. So, question number 1. When did you learn to knit and who taught you? I learned to knit in elementary school. I think I was in 3rd grade. Now, all Finns learn to knit in school. And I believe the first project we knit, well, I'm sure we did like swatches or whatever, but the first project that I remember knitting is a pair of socks. And the second was a colorwork leg warmers. So after that, it's just been like if I want to knit something, I knit something. Like starting with colorwork and socks just sort of took the edge off of being afraid of knitting. I've been knitting ever since, more or less. Even when I was a teenager, I knit some sweaters for myself. In high school, I actually knit a sweater that I designed myself as well. I don't have that anymore, and I didn't do any notes. But I saw a sweater on a TV show that I really liked, and I wanted to have something similar, so I made it myself. So I've always been knitting and always been doing. So that's how I learned to knit. Question number 2. What is your favorite or proudest make? Well, now, since I've been knitting and making things for almost 30 years now, there are a lot of favorite makes or proudest makes. One of my current favorite make is definitely this Tolme sweater that I'm wearing now. This is by Josie Paquin, and it's on one of the Amerisu issues, and I knit it out of the Rerum Naturas Juliet. So I love knitting this, I love wearing this, and usually when I wear it outside of the house, I get compliments on it. I just really, really love it. Question number 3. What is your most disastrous make? I don't think I've kept any. If something is a disaster, I just get rid of it. I frog it, I throw it away, I give it away, and then I don't think about it. I can't think of any knitting, like really disastrous knitting projects. Most of my disastrous projects are in the sewing department, where I try to, in the past where I've tried to sew something from without any patterns. Those usually don't turn out so well. So now I've learned my lesson, and I really do use patterns, and want patterns with clear instructions on how to do them, step-by-step instructions. Question number 4. What is your most dreaded knitting task? I like to think that I like every aspect of knitting, and I think there are 2 that I don't like. One is blocking. Kind of blocking where you have to use blocking wires or just pin, like shawl blocking. That's what I'm trying to say. Where it takes its time. I think it's just the wet wool and trying to shape it and not destroy it. I think the cold wet wool is the part that I don't like. I used to think that weaving in ends, which is a common dreaded task, was something that I was completely okay with, that it didn't bother me. But I have a pair of socks that I finished in October and November, and I've woven in the ends on one of the socks. So that's not good. So I'm definitely dreading that for whatever reason. Question number 5. What is your most favorite knitting task? Well, knitting. But if we want to break it down more, I think my favorite task is matching yarn and pattern, whatever way I want to go. If I have a yarn that I want to use, finding a perfect pattern for it. If I have a pattern, finding a perfect yarn for it. I think that's the part that I like best. And then the actual knitting part, because I really do like knitting. Question number 6. What is your most used knit? That would have to be the white cardigan that I wore in the previous episode, or episode 51. So it's the sort of natural white cabled cardigan that I've knit probably 12 years ago, and I just use it all the time, and you can really tell, and I need to replace it, but I haven't found the right pattern or the right yarn or whatever. Something's always the problem, and I haven't cast on for a new one. But that one I use all the time in winter time, or if I'm just really cold. I wear it inside the house, and during spring and especially during autumn I use it as a coat outside. Question number 7. What is your favorite gift you've knitted for someone else? As a rule, I don't knit a lot of gifts. I'm gonna put it in quotation mark, selfish knitter. So I do a few gifts each year, but my favorite, it would be the pair of socks that I knit for my partner this Christmas. I managed to do them as a complete surprise. He's been wearing them almost every day since, and so he really likes them, and they turned out to be the perfect size for him. So really happy with those. And for gift knitting, I think the pleasure comes from seeing it being used. So happily being used, not forcefully. Also, I knit a cowl for my son for a year ago, for Christmas a year ago, and he really loves that thing. I have to wrestle it away from him to wash it occasionally. He wants to wear it non-stop, especially if he has a sore throat. He sleeps with it and everything. So those 2 things, they still bring me pleasure now that I see them being worn and loved. Question number 8. What is your ultimate knitting goal? Oh gosh. Well, I would like to be successful as a knitting designer, but I don't think that's what's meant here. But when I think of knitting and goals, that's what came to my mind first. Question number 9. No, this is one. Question number 9. Have you taught anyone else to knit? Well, I've taught my son how to knit. He hasn't really taken to it, so I think if I would need to teach him again, and he wasn't really like independent. I had to be next to him all the time. Like he knew how to do motion, but if he dropped a stitch or did something else funny, he wouldn't know how to fix it, so I had to help him. But he's the only one. Question number 10. What is your favorite knitting entertainment? Netflix. That's that simple. Sometimes I watch podcasts. TV, Netflix. I don't really watch TV. I watch Netflix on my TV, but like the TV channels, I don't really watch them. I watch Netflix and HBO. But that's it. Question number 11. Do you have any other hobbies? Yes, I do. And sometimes I wish I didn't, because then I would have more time for knitting. But I do cross stitch. I used to do it before I got obsessed with knitting. I used to be obsessed with cross stitch before I became obsessed with knitting. And then during the past year, I've slowly started doing it again more. And yeah, just getting back into that. I also sew. And in that category, I would also put the occasional quilt that I do. I haven't done a quilt in a long time now. I have my son's quilt top upstairs waiting for me to finish it. I read, crochet a bit, spin. So there's a lot. So if I have a couple of hours in the evening of time just for me, I'm usually spending half of it trying to decide which of my hobbies I want to be doing. But I think that's a good problem. The last question number 12. Do you have any other knitting techniques you want to learn or master? I'm not saying I'm good at everything, but it's just, for me, I view knitting as something you do one stitch at a time. So whatever it is that I want to do, or the project that I'm doing has, I just go about it one stitch at a time, worrying about that one stitch. But like I said, brioche, and I don't think I've tried double knitting ever. I know how it's done, I know the thing, but I don't think I've done any projects with double knitting. I'm not setting any goals for knitting as my hobby. I'm not setting any goals. If I see a project that has brioche or double knitting that I want to do, then I'll do it and learn it as I go. Alright, so those are my answers for the knitters tag. I'm not going to tag anyone since I wasn't officially participating in the tag, as I wasn't tagged myself. But if you do answer these questions, I would love to hear your answers. So leave a link below if you're participating in the knitters tag, either on your own or if someone's tagged you. I'd be happy to come and listen to your answers. So see you next week. Happy knitting. Bye.